What's up, you guys? Lenny here. I decided to make another sit-down video, almost as a sequel to my previous video, which was also the first one on this channel. And it was all about change. It was all about the things I perceived were fundamental for me throughout this autumn season. And I feel like this video can be a great sequel to that previous video, almost as a way to wrap up this season, point out how the season started and how it is going to end, at least for now, throughout these couple of months, September, October, what went down for me, and most of all the lessons I feel like I am experiencing and experimenting. So I want to start from the end of the previous video, in which I was talking about self-perception and self-representation, how throughout the experimentation, this experiment of YouTube, how I am trying to claim and reclaim myself, claim myself back, how I am trying to get comfortable with myself, with both being seen and heard, not just from others, but from myself. And this is because I realized through a conversation with a mentor of mine how growing up I was never able to gain an independent perception of myself. Growing up in my household, I never had pictures of myself. There were no pictures, no representation of myself growing up. And this is why when I approached my 20s, as I was taking pictures of myself, I felt so disassociated from myself. I was like, who is this? Because I never had a representation of who I was. And there is a difference, by the way, of from watching yourself in the mirror, watching your reflection in the mirror in real time, and watching yourself back through a video frame, for instance, also with the purpose to edit the video content and to share it. It is very different. It is very different, and this is why I feel like this YouTube adventure is such a great challenge for me to almost claim myself back, or for the first time gain a self-perception of who I am through a self-representation, my own representation of who I am. In fact, for the longest time, there was no evidence of who I was growing up. There was no picture, there were no evidences. And therefore, growing up, I only perceived myself through others' projections of who I was. This is why I felt like I was never able to have, to create an independent perception of myself through other evidences outside, apart from my family's perception or projections of me. But also school or college, they also provided perceptions and projections of who I was for others, in the opinion, even in the judgment of others. And this has a lot to do with my voice as well, not just with my image. I mentioned in the previous video how I struggled with aphasia for the past 2-3 years. I struggled a lot to communicate in my own language, which is Italian, and English instead, through social media, was instead a great escape for me, a way to speak myself. And this is because for the longest time in school or college, my language was used to the purpose of examination. I was judged, and this is how school, college, how they work. I was judged based upon of what I was saying. And what I was saying was right only if it was not what I was thinking, but what others thought. I had to say what others wanted to hear from me. And therefore, I was never able to say what I wanted. And the same in my family, the same went on and went down in my family for the longest time growing up. In my family, I was perceived as an element of disturb. Therefore, I could never speak too much. And so they were like, oh, please shut up. And I perceived myself as an element of disturb growing up. Therefore, I was never really able to speak because I really struggled to even listen to myself. Because I was listening to myself through the ears of others. Once I realized all of this, even through YouTube in this case, I realized the importance of representing myself in order to claim back a perception of myself which is independent from the projections of others. And this was so important, and I was able, and I'm still trying to walk through this journey through a somatic approach. I'm trying to face the discomfort I feel watching myself back in the frame, in the edit of the video. I'm trying to alchemize this discomfort into a form of comfort. I'm trying to get comfortable with myself, get comfortable with being with myself. And this is such a game changer, I'd say. In the previous video, I also mentioned the mature self archetype I tend to adopt as I face situations, circumstances. The mature self, it is an archetype to personify, to get ready for success instead of a failure in life. And this is what I tried to do these couple of months, as I am still looking for a job. This was the way I tried to present myself to job interviews, for instance. However, I faced failure still. And yet I had to question the frame of both success and failure I was using. And this was possible also considering others' perceptions and projections. I had friends who asked me as I was going through the interviews. They asked me, well, what if you fail? And this to me was kind of mind-blowing, because I was like, you know what? I tried to face this situation, the circumstances, with the will to succeed, not to fail, with the perspective of success instead of failure. Otherwise, why would I do all what I do? Otherwise, what is the point to try to do everything if you think that you're gonna fail? As you try, you assume you can succeed. And this is what I did, yet I still failed multiple times. And so I had to question my frames of both success and failure. What if instead of failure there is a lesson? In fact, I realized that maybe not all of what we lose, not all of what I lose is a loss. Maybe what I lose is meant to be a lesson instead. This helped me a lot. Also to reframe rejections as indications for another direction. I mentioned this already. And this was possible as I challenged myself to personify my authentic self. I feel like through the rejections, the universe is also challenging me to a radical authenticity as a compass to navigate situations and circumstances. In fact, for the first time throughout the interviews I went throughout the process, the procedure of interviews, I was able to stay myself all throughout the process. In the past, I was a huge people pleaser without even realizing it. In fact, for the longest time, I thought people pleasing was just always agreeing with others, but it is much more than it is. In school, in college even, I was always the version of what others wanted me to be. I always tried to meet others' expectations. I never even questioned what I wanted, but most of all, who I was, who I wanted to be. And in fact, for the longest time in school, I was so successful. I was such a great, successful student because I was always doing what others wanted me to do. I was saying what others wanted me to say. I was exactly who others expected me to be. And this was successful, yet let me tell you, I wasn't even myself, and therefore I wasn't happy at all. I did not even know what was happiness. So now I may have failed the interviews, but I know, yes, I have failed, but I am still myself. I failed maybe because I was myself, and I wasn't what others wanted me to be or expected me to be. And yet, let me tell you, even through the failure, even through the disappointment of failure, I am still happy because I am myself and I've got myself. No one can take this happiness away from me. And so, yes, I was disappointed because I thought I was kind of meant for the places I applied to, but it turned out those places weren't meant for me. Thank God I stayed my authentic self throughout the process. Otherwise, I would have ended up in places which weren't meant for me at all. And this is what I mean with rejection as a direction. A direction to go from what is not meant for you to what is meant for you instead. So this leads to the other challenges I feel like the universe is putting me through. First of all, a challenge to a radical happiness. To be happy, to stay happy without any reason. Without any tangible reason, because happiness comes from who I am and the contentment of who I am. And once again, I came to this realization through conversations with others. They were like, why are you even happy? You have no reasons. You are kind of failing in this moment, in this season of life. Why would you even be happy about it? And I was like, happiness has not to do with accomplishments. Happiness has to do with me. I am happy of who I am, and I am happy of being with myself, staying myself. And this also has to do with another challenge I feel like the universe is presenting me with. A challenge to a radical faith. Faith, in fact, has no reasons. Faith isn't about reasoning. Faith is about believing. I do believe in what is meant for me. I do believe in the fact that what is meant for me will not pass me by, even if, or maybe because, I have no proofs. And this is what faith is about. To believe is to affirm that something exists, even if you haven't proofs of such existence. Otherwise, if you have proofs, it's not faith, it's a deduction. And so it has a lot to do with reasoning, with reasons, actual reasons. Faith has nothing to do with reasons. Faith has to do with the belief that what you desire exists. Faith is about believing in desires, the chance to realize your desires and to realize yourself through your desires. The faith to go beyond your needs. Because needs are material and you can extinguish them. But desires instead, are all of what creation is about. Needs are sterile. There is no creation from needs. You simply extinguish a need. Desires instead create. They are fertile, a fertile soil of creation through faith, through what you believe in. People ask me, oh, how are you gonna get what you need? You have no way to maintain or sustain yourself in the present moment. And I am like, well, instead of asking myself, what do I need and how do I get what I need? I rather ask myself, what do I desire? And how can I get to what I desire? How can I realize my desires? Because I have a feeling that by realizing my desires, I can also realize myself. And the way through which the universe, I feel like, is challenging me in this radical faith is subtraction. I feel like through rejections, the universe is subtracting all of what is not meant for me from my life in order to create a place for what is meant for me, in order to create a place to realize my desires and myself. The challenge is about not settling, because in the moment you simply extinguish your needs, you settle. If you don't go beyond what you need, if you don't go beyond your needs, you settle. I feel like the universe is challenging me to do not settle for my needs, do not even settle for my fears, because in the moment I simply extinguish my needs. I do this from a place of fear, of chasing what I need. The challenge is to go beyond. You know, as I shared with a friend the fact that I got rejected from this interview, I shared my failure. The first thing this friend asked me was, well, what are you gonna do now? This question came from such a reactive place, and reaction, I feel like, is an action led by fear, and it leads to survival. I rather ask myself instead how I feel, instead of, oh, what am I gonna do? What do I do? No, I rather ask myself, how do I feel in this moment? And from this place, how do I get to what I want? And I'm not gonna lie, I am still struggling with self-doubt at the moment. Yes, I do believe, but faith doesn't mean there is no doubt. Because there is doubt, we are called to faith, to believe. Otherwise, if we had no doubt, there is nothing to believe in, because we have all the tangible, once again, proofs. And if you have a tangible proof, you do not doubt. You doubt because you have no proofs, yet you still choose to believe. I am in a place of self-doubt at the moment, I am not gonna lie. And I realized this through tarot readings, and through going back to all my notes, all the notes about the tarot readings I had throughout the first half of the year. And I felt like there were great promises, there were also great signs, synchronicities. Yet in this second half of the year, I feel like I misunderstood all of those promises. I am questioning them. I am questioning myself. I am self-doubting. I'm doubting myself. And yes, maybe I realized through this actual tower moment, the tower is another archetype from the tarots, a moment of disruption. I feel like I am going through my tower moment in life, and this is what is challenging my beliefs, and this is what is meant to be, this is what is meant for me at the moment. And so I looked back at my tarot readings and I was like, yes, maybe I did misunderstood it all. Because I thought the tarots were presenting me all the obstacles I should have faced. And through this belief, I put myself in situations, circumstances of great adversities. Because, as I mentioned in the previous video, I saw myself as the archetype of the victim and the hero in my journey. The hero who needs enemies to fight against, to battle with, in order to define myself, to define my identity. But this was compromising for myself, because through this belief I put myself once again in adversities. I feel like the tarots, yes, they were presenting me with all the obstacles I should have escaped from. This is how the tower moment works in life, how the tower archetype from the tarots works. Yes, there are obstacles, but you need to escape them in order to let go of all of what is now falling apart, to embrace instead a new creation. Now, even escapism has to do with survival in a way. Yet, I feel like the battles, they put the hero in service of the survival, vice versa. To escape means to put the survival in service of who we are. To escape means to, yes, transmute the rejections you face, the failures even, into another direction, indications from the direction you need and you want to follow instead. This is what to escape means. And so yes, in the moment you feel like you are surviving, you're running away, yet you're also running toward what is meant for you. You're running toward a place of life instead of survival, life creation, life design. This is how creation works through another archetype which I mentioned, the magician. The magician is the one who paves the way, because he is or she is the source of such a way of creation, of such a life design. And this way is what I mean with the word ascension. This is what I mean with the way of ascension, a way of creation, self-creation and self-realization, a way you pave because you are the source of it. Previously, I mentioned the challenge of radical faith, to believe in what you have no proofs of, to believe what you desire exists even if you do not have proofs, to believe in miracles, to believe that miracles can happen even if you do not witness the process of such a miracle. Well, let me tell you, I am not waiting for a miracle. I choose faith because I choose to live as my miracle already happened, and I am now documenting the journey.